It's now time to bring you part two of our conversation for today as we focus on insecurity in Nigeria. Now, reports all over the news in the last few days, weeks and months have just clearly painted a picture that Nigeria is faced with increasing insecurity challenges that continue to mitigate any effort by government, economic development and even social well-being of the average Nigerian. All the security-related challenges may range from economic sabotage to communal tribal clashes, cultism, armed robbery, herdsmen clashes, and even kidnapping, amongst others, which have led to the loss of lives and property and just generally a discouraged local and foreign base for investment. Now, in the wake of the Boko Haram insurgency so far in the northeastern part of the country and also spreading as well, for example, firms including flour mills of Nigeria relocated to Borno and Yobe to northwestern states, as well as other companies also withdrew their representatives and shut down operations as insecurity worsened in those states. Now, for the Nigerian economy and businesses to thrive in the face of daunting challenges, so many economists and analysts believe that Nigeria must adopt technology and devise new means to combat the current security issues to achieve a sustainable and effective growth rate, if any, will be achieved at this point in time. Well, to discuss this and much more, I have joining me via Skype the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Muda Yusuf. Good to have you on the show this afternoon.
Thank you, and good afternoon to you.
Now, you have a very unique interface with the business community in Nigeria. Now, let's break things down in clear economic terms now. The volume of loss we have as a result of the current insecurity in Nigeria. We have inflation skyrocketing. This is due to food inflation as well. As of 2016, Nigeria lost no less than 107 billion naira due to food production that was literally low because of insecurity. Let's break things down, starting from food, the basic necessities.
Well, the situation is very troubling. It's a very disturbing situation because the kind of stories that is coming out from different parts of the country as far as insecurity is concerned can only be compared to what we used to hear, I will say here, about Afghanistan, about Syria, Iraq, South Sudan, Yemen, Somalia, and so on. So the situation is that bad. And this has very serious implications for business, just as you said. And the implication is across practically all sectors of business and across practically all levels of business. Another more very disturbing dimension to the kind of criminality and insecurity we are having is the fact that it is being turned into an enterprise in some sense, particularly the aspect of criminality that borders on kidnapping is becoming a big business. So there is also an enterprise content in the insecurity situation that we are faced with. And unfortunately, rather than abate, the situation seems to be worsening. So that is why it is a very serious concern to those of us in the business community and to the larger society. Nigeria is now one of the top 20 most dangerous countries to live in. That is not a good commentary. It's not a good credential for us as a country. Already the economy is stumbling. The economy is struggling. We just managed to crawl out of recession at 0.11%. The unemployment level is so high. Inflation is so high. We are faced with what economists call stagflation, where an economy is stagnating, and yet we are experiencing high prices. Purchasing power is getting weaker. Industrial capacity utilization is getting weaker. And yet on top of this, we are now faced with this very disturbing, destabilizing security problem. So the implications are much. First, as an investor, it is only the living that can do business. If you are not alive, what business can you do? So you have to care first and foremost for your life before you begin to talk about money. And the implication of that for investment is that anywhere where there is high level of insecurity, as we are presently experiencing in many parts of the country, investments will vacate the place. Investors will have to shut down their business. It's either they do it voluntarily or they are compelled by all these negative dark forces to shut down the investments. So we are losing investment across the country, across sectors, in all of these locations where we have this ravaging insecurity.
Dr. Yusuf,
because people have to worry about their life. Then there is the issue of the perception of investors. I talked to you about the kind of perception we have, even as Nigerians, about places like Yemen, like Afghanistan, like Syria.
It's a grim picture.
Unfortunately, we are getting into that category. How do you attract investment? If the situation has degenerated to a point that you have this kind of terrible perception of the country as a very dangerous place to live in. So it has very serious implications for perception as an investment destination. And these things affect investors' confidence. And when things are happening this way, what often happens is that it is difficult to attract long-term investment. Not only from foreign investors, even from domestic investors. How do you invest long-term in a situation that is so unstable, that is so unsafe? So it has also an impact on the structure of investment that we be having as a country. Then they have the issue of the country risk. Any investor that wants to go into a country, one of the things you look at is the country risk rating of that country. What is our country risk? Look at the Global Peace Index. We are one of the worst performers in that index. And it's a reputable index to measure the peace in a country. And because of this, Edas, Fulani, and all these other dimensions of the attacks, the rural communities have been so badly affected. And our agricultural sector is rested almost 90% in the rural areas. So the agricultural sector is taking a big hit. And that is already manifesting in the high cost of food. Look at food inflation. Well over 20%, going to almost 22% or so. And the situation is not abating. And for the average man, the people who are in poverty, one of the worst things you can do to a poor man is to make it difficult for him or her to have access to food. Food security is key. The situation is not getting better. Food is becoming more expensive in spite of all these initiatives that the government and the CBN are putting in place. If you put the money there and the place is not secure, what business can you do? What farming can you do? And the effect on the agricultural sector is also having some related effect to agro-allied industries. Because the agro-allied industries depend on the agricultural sector for the feedstock, for raw materials to process. If the agric is in shambles or is collapsing because of insecurity, then what are you going to process? So it's also affecting the raw material availability to industry, to the agro-allied industry.
Dr. Yusuf, if I may button here.
Pause and listen to.
If I may button here now, let's also take a picture of working models. For example, Botswana churns out the second largest bulk of its budgetary allocation to defense. Now, do you share the sentiment that Nigeria needs an increased spending in terms of defense, also looking at the area of reducing mismanagement, or you think we have a budget that can deal with this situation on ground, the level of insecurity, rather we just have to work on the architecture that we currently have? Because if we have to deal with insecurity, we cannot just continue with the same model that we've had over time, wouldn't you say?
You know, it is very clear that we have serious capacity problem in our military. Senator Ali Ndume is the chairman of the Senate Committee on Army. So he's in a very good position to know what our capacity is and what the gaps are in the military. He has said it severally, that the military is not properly funded. So it's a very big issue that we need to deal with. If we need to shut down allocations to other ministries and so on and focus only on the military, on defense, so be it. Because without security, you cannot do any other thing. So the funding to the military is key, and also related to that is one of the issues you mentioned in your intro, issue about technology. We need to apply technology in the way we also deal with this. It's also related to funding. So we need to scale up funding of the military. We need to improve on their equipment capacity and capability. Because if you have a situation where the insurgents or terrorists are going to attack military bases, they have the audacity to do that, then we have a big problem on our hands. Each time we hear of these attacks, what we hear is about being repelled. We are not talking about carrying the attack to their base. It's about repelling them. And the repelling has not also been that effective. I listened to one governor yesterday talking about how policemen and checkpoints were running away because they had information that some of these bandits were on their way. I mean, things have really degenerated. And we have to do something about it. Then there's also the issue of intelligence. To deal with this kind of issue, intelligence is very key. Because it's one thing to have equipment, to have everything. If you don't have sufficient intelligence, you cannot target these terrorists effectively and accurately. Intelligence is critical to targeting. Targeting is critical to success in any military campaign. So the intelligence is also weak. So these are some of the things we need to do. And if you need help, people have said this severally. If you need help from outside the country, let us get the help. And let us also talk less and do more. In this kind of things, the less words or the lesser you talk, the better. From point of view of strategy. What we want to see is action. So these are the things that I think we need to do. And we also need to look at the issue of decentralizing the security architecture. The security architecture or ecosystem is too centralized. That is why we are having this debate on state police, community policing, and all of that. We need to have a system that will be inclusive of the subnationals, of the local communities, to deal with this problem of insecurity. This idea of having a top-down approach to the issue of attacking criminality and insecurity, it has not worked, and we have to quickly revisit it. So we need to build an inclusive strategy, inclusive architecture that will include the local communities, that will include the local government, that will include the states, to also be part of the ecosystem that is dealing effectively with the challenge of insecurity. So by way of strategy going forward, I think these are the things that I think we need to do. And there are some countries that are also good at dealing with this kind of things. They have gone through this part. Let us seek their support. Let us seek their assistance to deal with this problem, because it's getting out of hand.
Definitely, Nigeria cannot do this alone, but still talking about the impact of insecurity in the country now, let's also tilt our attention towards the brain drain we've seen. So many corporate organizations have left, are leaving, or are planning to leave. Just the same way we have talents also leaving the country. The rate of emigration is quite high. We cannot talk about a stronger economic rebound if we have the best minds leaving the country. We cannot talk about utilizing our resources if we have so many areas of production hubs or baskets of production also largely impacted by insecurity. How then do we now manage this brain drain on the back of insecurity if we cannot deal with this situation in the short term?
Well, the issue of brain drain is a major concern because we have seen all manner of scenarios where we invest to train our people in across all professions. After investing in them, they leave the country to go and serve other countries. It's the environment that we have created. You have invested in a human being or in your resource and it's not properly utilized, or you don't create the environment for those resources to remain, the resources will leave. So it's unfortunate that that has happened and it's still happening. But this has even been happening even before the degeneration of the security situation. It's a problem that has been there for close to a decade. And it's a question of how you manage the economy to be able to retain these talents. That is what it is. If the economy was doing well, if you had put in place all the kind of reforms that we need to have put in place long before now, if you have created institutions that are very supportive of investment, if our policies have been very fantastic as far as investment protection and promotion is concerned, if the regulatory environment has been very favorable, I mean, the economy will do a lot better than this. It should be a major investment destination in Africa by virtue of our size. Even with all of this, we are still the largest economy on the continent. But the size of the economy is driven largely by oil and things that does not make the economy inclusive. So therefore, the impact of being a large economy is not being felt by the citizens because we have not been able to build an economy that is inclusive. Those are the things. So the brain drain is an issue, but the bigger issue is to ensure that we create a good environment, even for those that are remaining, to be able to feel proud that this is a country that we love. This is a country to live in. There is no place like home. If you talk to those who have gone to different countries, many of them wish they could stay at home. Because if you are there, you are still a foreigner. There's a kind of psychological comfort you have when you are in your own country. You can't get that elsewhere. Mm. But if the situation is so bad that to make a living is becoming more difficult, you can't take care of basic things, of course, you have to live.
Dr. Yusuf,
so we need to fix the economy.
Wrapping up our conversation now, we are seeing a decrease in foreign direct investment. We are seeing an increase in the volumes that we also have in terms of investor participation just because of insecurity. Now, looking at the fact that we have moves like the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement and much more, do you think the fragility of the Nigerian economy is heightened and we will not be prepared to even have any little gains, be it in any form, because other countries are taking the bulk of investment volumes that we are seeing? Do you think the fragility of the Nigerian economy will continue to heighten just because we cannot attend to insecurity on the back of the opportunities that the AfCFTA and the likes of other trade negotiations open up for us?
That's a no-brainer. I mean, that's very obvious.
But do you think it's clear? Do you think the government understands how clear this picture is?
Well, I hope they understand. I mean, we have been saying this every now and again, so it's not anything new. We are not saying anything new about the Nigerian business environment. The unfortunate thing is that the situation is not improving. So for the AFCTA, investors will come and they will go to destinations that they feel comfortable staying in. And the thing about the Continental Free Trade Agreement is that no matter where you are within the sphere of the agreement, you can produce and export to other countries. So the danger we are faced with all this scenario is that we are not likely to be an attractive destination for investors that want to take advantage of the AFCTA. They would rather stay in some other small country, produce there, and make our country a market destination, not an investment destination, which would be very unfortunate. Even if you talk to investors here, some of them would rather go and invest somewhere and export to Nigeria. Because how do you stay in a country that every minute the stories you hear is about killings, kidnapping, banditry, and all of that? And it's not abating. So whether we are talking of Continental Free Trade Agreement or we are talking about our own domestic economy, we have to fix this security problem so that we can have some confidence as investors, so that we can have some peace of mind, even as citizens of the country. As many people have said, the number one responsibility of any government is to provide security of life and property. That's the number one responsibility. If we are not able to deliver that, then the government has failed in a major responsibility. So the government has to sit up. Whatever we need to do, whatever it will cost, we throw it into this problem so that we get it solved. Not just because of the economy, but because of all of the citizens of this country, because of our image as a country. So that we know we are not classified as Syria or Afghanistan or Yemen or Somalia. That is what is degenerating into.
Well, it is clear that we have to attend to the security crisis we have in the country. We cannot just play lip service or just cross our legs and watch as the country continues to degenerate into the picture that you've clearly painted there. We have to do something. And Nigeria can't solve the situation of kidnappings, banditry, and all of that. We can't work in silos. We just have to work together to ensure that, be it any form of insecurity that we have, we nip it in the bud before it becomes a menace that rules the economy. Thank you very much once again for your time on the show this afternoon, Dr. Muda Yusuf. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and we hope government is listening and understands how clear the picture is to take action.
Thank you very much. Thank you.